All right, gear review time. Let's roll. Hello and welcome to another episode of the HEMA Show. I, like always, am your host Stuart, and this is edited by my mate Andy. Say hi, Andy. All I could do is apologise to you, buddy. Having to deal with it bollocks all the time. Right, so a little while ago, you may remember that we did a Feder's Buyer's Guide. I think that video did fairly well. I think all of 6 people watched it. Good on all of you. Hi, Mum. So yeah, basically I figured let's go through it. Let's review each weapon individually and kind of show the pros and the cons and give you a little bit more information if you're interested in buying a Feder. So let's crack on. The first weapon in the buyer's guide was the Kingston Arms Feder. This chunky monkey. This big old bastard came in at the most basic and the cheapest. In that video I did say it was £175. Since then, or some point, it's gone up by 20 quid. So it's now £195. Sorry.
So that was a fucking lie.
So yes, this is the Feder by Kingston Armories. That's almost certainly out of shot. So I'll kind of, hopefully that's picking up on the focus. It's not messing with the camera. So, Kingston Armory Feder. Fuck, is it ugly. It's rough, isn't it? You see what I mean? So let's go through the stats first, just before I get distracted. So it's £195 from the night shop. It's 195 quid, steel sword for 100, oh, that's just about sub 200 quid. That's something in itself. I've got this one from the night shop. As normal, the level of service from the night shop, spot on. You know that you don't really need to worry about that. But the length of this blade in total, from arse to tip, is 130 centimeters. So it's not the longest of long swords. My Regnier dwarfs this one by a fair bit, about 10 centimeters, which actually in a competitive setting is a huge margin. The blade itself is 96 centimeters, so from tip to quillon is 96 centimeters. I have my own issues with the blade, but I'll come to that in a moment. It's really hard not to go off on a tangent about this sword. The overall weight of this one comes in at a whopping 1,672 grams, nearly 1,700. Excuse me, nearly 1,700 grams. Now, yeah, it's not the heaviest Feder, but somehow they've made it feel like the heaviest one. And the steel this is made out of is 5160. So it's a good sword. It's a good sword. So those are the stats, those are the raw figures. What do I think? Well, the length, it is very short. It is a short, long sword, which has something to say over and over again in the practice and in the edit of this. It has been awkward. But it is sub 200 quid. And everything I say, just in your own head, suffix with, but it's sub 200 quid. So it's a very short sword, but it's sub 200 quid. Okay, well done. So yeah, it is very short. It's very short. It's little, but it's fine. It's a long sword. It's under 200 quid. So 130, ideally you want something around about 140, 135, 140. Most people are rocking about there. This is on the short of average. I think this is a little bit shorter than the off-the-peg Regnier that Night Shop also sells, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. I think that one comes in at 133, 134, I think. I did have a quick look, but I totally forgot. The blade length is also quite short, 96 centimeters. Most of them you're looking at about 100 centimeters, a meter's worth of blade. This is a little bit short, and that leans into one of the issues. I'll come into that one in a moment, but the blade, the shield, I mean, enough said, right? But just the fact, actually, whilst I'm here on the shield, why, fucking why, do they not just have the slightest downwards angle in here so it actually catches the blade? I have fought with this blade a lot. I've fought with this sword a hell of a lot. And you'd think that, yeah, it might catch. It doesn't. It ricochets blades. You get a decent bind or parry on the Forte, If your opponent's sword starts to slip when you've got the parry here coming down, which you kind of want to collect down here, it will just go boing and flip off and hit you in the hands. Exhibited by the sheer amount of wallops to the guard here. Just it comes down, parry, boing, smack, crunch here. So yeah, why they didn't just put a slight angle on it just so it catches and holds. A little bit like most of the Reginiers, in all fairness. One of the Reginiers does look very similar to this, but it is just slightly flatter, which stops it bouncing off. The other thing, and this is a personal thing, the width of the blade at the end, that's what, 2 centimeters? It's quite chunky at the end here. Good old roll tip, gotta love a roll tip, but it's quite chunky at the end here. But it's really skinny at this end. It's just over 1 centimeter. It's really skinny, but it's much thicker here, obviously, and much thinner here. So in this profile, it actually makes complete sense. And then you go, oh dear, oh dear. It's almost like the thickness is correct in this profile, but they got the design upside down of the blade. It should have been thinner at the end, and thinner this way, and narrower, and thicker, and wider. It's almost like they got it upside down, and that just gives it a weird balance. A weird balance. I mean, it's really bloody far down. It's a weird balance, this sword. It's very, very strange. It looks like it should be fine, but what it does is it makes it just incredibly hard to work. It's very heavy on the chop, so if you like to cut, you will be able to cut through people's parries. So if you're cutting and your opponent is a bit of a moyen parrier, they parry in the middle of the blade, you will be able to cut through and hit. So for a cutter, it's great. This is a chopper of a blade. But it just makes it weird to move. It doesn't like to move like a typical sword. And if you're doing any point work with it, it's a hog. Not to move it, but to stop the bloody thing. It just wants to carry on. If I'm whipping around in this line here, not that the focus is going to pick it up at all, you get to here and the blade goes, nah mate, I want to be over here. And you're really fighting your own blade. You're really fighting the inertia on this sword.
I think it's a ½ gram heavy on the back end.
And it's got a mind of its own. It just goes off on one. It's got a mind of its own, and unfortunately, it's an asshole. So it just does its own thing. It really does its own thing. So the blade is a piece of work. The grip is really short, really short. It's only a little bit longer than the standard night shop grips. In fact, I've got the Club Sport Feder here, so you can see is a little bit shorter, and the pommel comes in sooner. And you think, yeah, overall length actually isn't a huge amount of difference, but that pommel coming in sooner makes a huge difference. It means that the pommel sits right here. If you want to get a decent bit of leverage for the cut, which this blade wants to cut, you've got to hold it really low down. And I definitely find, I fight here anyway. I like just to have these here so I can get as much leverage as possible when I fight with my Reginier anyway. I'm generally here, that's my habit. But with this, you're just slipping off all the time. It's weird. Very strange. Threaded. If you can find a blade, then good on you. But it is technically threaded. The grip, like I say, a little short. It's a wrapped handle. If you look on the website, in fact, Andy, can you pull up a picture of it here, please, if you haven't done so already? You'll see that the grip on this is new. They all come with this stupid brown wrapped cord, and it will come off within about 30 nanoseconds of you buying it. I've never known a Kingston weapon to retain its cord wrap. This was very kindly done by one of my members who stuck some leather on it because it was looking a bit barren, let's say. So yeah, so the cord will go, so don't buy it if you like the look of the cord, because that will go. This one was held together with bloody sniper tape for a long time. The steel, obviously, being 5160, you do have to be a little careful of it with the oils on your hands. It will corrode, but that's nothing new. That's nothing unique to this one. We can't blame that on this sword. And the pommel, yeah, working our way down, the pommel it's a funny little pommel. It's really got quite a large angle on here, so it doesn't really sit in the hand very nicely. Quillons, fine, actually. One of the bits about this blade that I don't really have too much to complain about. It's an octagonal quillon. Nice and long, slightly shorter than my Reginier, which has got custom long quillons on it. So actually, I find the quillons on this one quite nice. They don't catch on the wrist at all, and to be honest, quillons shouldn't catch on your wrist. If they are, you're doing something wrong. But overall, it's a hog. But you know what? I love it. I really do. I don't know why. It's the little Feder that could. Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's a thick handle, actually. Giggity. It is a really, really girthy handle. It's nice and big in the hands, which if you are a gentleman with larger hands like I, then this is actually quite nice. It will fill your grip nicely. And if you've got gloves on as well, you can really feel this one. The one criticism I have of my personal Reginier is it's just a little bit slender in the hand. It took me a lot of getting used to. But yeah, it doesn't move. When it does move, you have to fight it. It's ugly, it's heavy, it's weird on the balance, it's kind of hard to hold, and your hand falls off the end of the pommel. But I do really like it. And I don't know why. I guess because, again, it's under 200 quid for a Feder. And if you're not sure, if it's all you can afford, then it's all you can afford. You know me well enough by now to know that I don't give any judgment at all if that's all you've got. If that's all you can afford, then more power to you. You get it and you make it yours. If it's all you can afford, then you pull that trigger and you get it. Or if you're at a club and you like side sword, and there's only a couple of people that do side sword, you're primarily a longsword club, then you just want to get the cheapest possible functional longsword just so you can get a few more fights. Then again, that's just fine for this. This is fine if it's all you can afford, or if you just want a basic longsword, if you're really not into anything more, it's fine. And you know what? It is perfectly functional. This has lasted, how old's my daughter? 4 years. 4.5 years, bloody hell. 4.5 years. This has lasted a long time. This has lasted a long time, and it has not had an easy life. It has been battered, and I mean, look at it, it's dreadful. It is dreadful. I need to clean it as well. But it will survive. It will survive. It's a great sword with all of the previous taken into consideration. It's fine. It's a workhorse. It will survive. It's not pretty. It's not great, but it will work. It is functional. It won't break. It won't be unfit for purpose. It is what it is. It is a bare bones meat and potatoes sword for relatively cheap. And if you're not into anything more expensive, then that's good enough. If you just want a basic Feder, you can't go wrong. I tend to buy these as club Feders. And anyone who has seen how abused club swords get, the fact that it's still in one piece after 4 years speaks volumes about it. So if you want, who's this for? Who is this for? It's not for someone who wants to do longsword, unless it's all you can afford. It's for people that are on an extreme budget, or they're just buying a longsword because they need one, but it's not their primary goal. It's not their primary motivation. They're just getting it to complete the set, or they're just getting it to get a few more scraps in of an evening. It is an entry-level sword. It won't light your world on fire. It will be a monster to work with, but it will get you going. So that is the Kingston Armory's Feder. I like it. I like it. It's got that ugly pretty thing going on. Still in one piece. It's got that ugly pretty thing going on. But yeah, it is what it is. Don't get one if you're looking for something interesting or looking for something special. If it's just function, that's your boy. Right, let's go into the question and answer session. All right, so this week's question comes from Anonymous, actually, not the organisation. Whoever you did, thank you for the question, but you didn't leave a name, sorry, in your username at the top was indecipherable for me, sorry. So apologies for not having your name on this, but they ask, what weapon do you want added to HEMA? I think what probably they mean is, what would you like to see more commonly fought in HEMA? I touched on this briefly in a previous episode. That was well, you'll see. But the weapon that I would love to see in HEMA more would be khopesh, the Egyptian khopesh. It's cool. For those of you that don't know, you'll probably recognise it slightly more from the Dothraki in Game of Thrones. The grip, a little bit of straight, kind of a sickled blade, and then a little pokey bit at the top. And they're just, so cool. The Egyptian, I mean, I've got a real passion for ancient history anyway, so Egypt really does it for me. And anything Egyptian, anything ancient history is fantastic. I love it. And there's something about the khopesh, it just looks weird. It's cool, it's really weird, it's really cool, and there's something about the mystique of the khopesh, the shape of it. You look at it, Andy, can you pull a picture up, mate? It's just, you look at it and you go, how on earth? It's cool, it's so cool. I would love to be able to fight with one. There's absolutely nothing existing about it anymore. We don't even know if the Egyptians chronicled a system to fight with it, or if they had anything written down for army usage or anything like that. It's basically anecdotal at best, but yeah, it's so cool, and I think the unknown is part of what pulls me to it. It's just such a cool sword, and it looks ace. I kind of think it might function a little bit like a saber, but probably saber crossed with maybe gladius, which sounds fucking stupid if you think about it. But it's an incredibly short weapon. So I imagine it's very chop, 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 chop here. So yeah, I mean, this is pure extrapolation at this point, but yeah, I love it. It's pretty. It is pretty. I've seen a couple of synthetic khopeshes, curious, online, and they look cool, but I'd really like a steel one. I'd really like a steel one. They look so pretty. But yeah, so to answer your question, I would love to see khopesh going on. If any of you have any information on the khopesh, please fire it over. If any of you are interested in just having a play and you've got some or anything like that, send it on over to me, because I would love to get involved as well. It's something that just really cool. I would love to have an opportunity to play with the khopesh. Anyway, so that's that for the day. You look after yourself, and I'll catch you next week. See you later. I fuck my own name up every single time.